Today on Locked On Rockies, we bring back friend of the show, Skyler Timmins, and Rockies expert for a lightning round of questions. Plus, he got to fill out a Hall of Fame ballot.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast. For today, a special episode here with Skyler Timmins joining us here. You know him, you love him. We talk about his work all the time. Purple Row, every Rocky ever. We just recorded a really great episode of the Affected by Altitude podcast as well, so you can check that out. Actually, I really liked our conversation because we got to dive into a lot of the minutia of the Rockies, get into if you're looking for some in the weeds Rockies talk, that was it, because it was good philosophy talk there. And Skyler, welcome into the show.
Thank you. Also, the extent of my expertise and abilities are highly exaggerated.
Yeah, he says as he writes for multiple websites. He does all sorts of great stuff. Got to fill out a Hall of Fame ballot. We're going to talk about that later. Just wanted to thank you all for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. You can also find the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Just search Locked On Rockies, and your subscription to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel is one of the best ways to help the show. Really, really do appreciate when you do that, and really do appreciate you supporting all your favorite Rockies media folks. So I wanted to do something a little different as we're in the dead zone of the season kind of right now. Winter meetings are coming up, and we talked about that on your show. And instead, to kind of fill the gaps, I just wanted pepper you with a lot of lightning round questions just to kind of see what your thoughts are on a variety of topics, because we're kind of just guessing right now.
Yeah.
We're just kind of just assuming, maybe thinking that that'll be, the Rockies will do this or that. So kind of want to pepper you with some questions and see where you think. How does that sound?
Oh, we'll do our best.
Excellent. Okay.
Having to just what is media, people, is nothing else, just wild speculation and guessing.
Especially
95% of the time.
Especially here in sports as well. All right, Skyler, I want to start with a question of, your friend comes up to you and says, I'm thinking of getting my friends Rockies season tickets. They're Rockies fans. They'll want to go. What do you tell that friend about the Rockies? And would you recommend that they get in on a season ticket package?
If anything, I'd advise them at least to look more into like the mini passport plans, like those smaller ones that where you can kind of pick and choose games and stuff. But I think we tell them more or less kind of be honest in what to expect. Like there's some fun, exciting players, especially now. No highlight. There's Nolan Jones, Brent Doyle, some exciting young players on the team. They may not win, but maybe the other team, you'll get to see some good baseball, at least, whether it's the Rockies or the other team coming in. But then, no, the same thing. You tell them, but Coors Field, it's fun to be there. It's a great place to watch the game. You'll have fun. And I think that's always my thing. Like, I'm not going to discourage people from going to games. If you want to, it's fun. It's fun to go. At the end of the day, it's a fun thing to go do. But you highlight, who are you going to see? Nolan Jones. He might sock a dinger for you, and it'll be fun. You'll get up, you'll dance, you'll do the wave. You'll go eat a Helton burger or something, a Rockies dog. But tell them go have fun. But maybe don't get in on a season ticket thing just yet. Maybe feel the waters first.
Will the Rockies make a trade during the winter meetings, and will it be a big trade?
No. I don't think they will.
Simple enough. Will, after the trade deadline in 2024, Ryan McMahon, Elias Diaz, and Brendan Rodgers will be Colorado Rockies? Yes or no?
So after the 2024 season?
No, after the 2024 trade deadline.
Oh, okay. I feel like McMahon, it's going to be a split decision. McMahon, yes. Rodgers, no. Diaz, no.
You think the Rockies are going to stick with Elias Diaz?
No, I don't.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, no, I think he would get traded at that point. We're assuming that they're going to be out of it
Yeah,
by
no,
the
I messed up my link. Now I
Judgment.
know. I was like, okay, now I see. Now I see what you were saying. That makes total sense. But it'll be that one's an interesting one. I think the
Yeah.
Elias Diaz situation is really interesting, and I really do think that's going to be kind of the one where it's like you're Randall Grichuk, where it's like, hey, this guy is contributing still. Like, put him on a.
Yeah.
I know the Angels didn't end up panning out, but it's like, hey, send him to a team that's a little bit more in the mix. Let him figure out that that's because you're not re-signing Elias Diaz like that. At least I don't think.
No, and Drew Romo is going to be ready. No, he'll be in AAA, start the season AAA, and if they, depending on how he does, and maybe depending on how Elias Diaz is doing in the team, no, he's ready to take over by August 1st at the latest. I think so. You can afford okay, if Diaz is having a solid year, okay, we can trade him off, get some pieces, and Drew Romo, you finish out the season for us.
If the Rockies don't trade Elias Diaz, does Drew Romo play for the Rockies in 2024?
I still think, if the September call up, or because depend on whoever the heck the backup catcher is. I don't even know who's going to be backup catcher next year.
Are they
Brian
not going?
Serven at the
Yeah,
moment.
is Serven not on the roster?
Well, he is, but I don't know if he's the type of option we want still.
He is. He's not good.
Yeah, he's had a rough go. He had that exciting start when he debuted last year or in 2022, but then it's just kind of fizzled out.
Nothing. He just hasn't brought much to really sit there and be like, whoa. They're like, at least Elias Diaz, where it's like, why are you throwing that ball way above someone's head? It's like, at least he drives and runs and still cuts down people at second base like incredibly effectively. So that'll be that's an interesting one. In the same vein here, does Zach Veen play for the Colorado Rockies in 2024?
Yes, because he has to. The right field at the moment is still. Who's playing right field consistently, regularly next year?
Is it not Sean Bouchard?
That's the thing is Sean Bouchard, I don't know. We haven't seen him in extended look as an everyday player. No, we've seen him some as a semi-regular coming off the bench, which I think he's the perfect Connor Joe coming off the bench type of guy. Yeah, he can start a couple times during the week, but he's not going to be my everyday regular. But otherwise, you have Michael Tolia, Hunter Goodman, who all bring their own sort of baggage to offensive things. So it's right field's kind of up in the air for me personally still. But Zach Veen, at least September, I think he gets in by September.
Does Chris Bryant play right field?
No, they're going to keep him at first base.
Okay. And then before we wind down our first round of lightning Rockies questions here with Skyler Timmins, does Charlie Blackmon have a 50-50 split of right field and DH next year?
I think from what it pans out, that's probably what's going to happen. He's going to DH more so, but
he's going to play more right field than we think.
Yeah, he's going to play a lot more right field than we think because Nolan Jones is in left field, and Chuck will handle right field more often, like several times during the week, like splitting the week. I would think, like maybe he won't play consecutive games in right field, but no, DH, right field, DH, right field, that kind of stuff, splitting it up more.
All right, before we go into the nope, I'll tease it. I'll give you time to think about it into the break.
Ooh.
Our next question leading into segment number 2 is on our Rockies lightning round here with Skyler Timmins of multiple bylines and places, but we know him, of course, here at Purple Row. That's one of our favorites here on the show. Does Chris Bryant and Charlie Blackmon play over 120 games next year? That's the question leading into segment number 2. We're going to get to that in just one moment. But before we do that, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible. And that includes FanDuel. Don't miss out on all the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook right now. Hey, keep believing in your Denver Broncos. We're recording this ahead of time, so I'm not sure how the game against the Texans is going to go, but you know what? We've said believe in the Broncos during this read for the past 5 weeks, and it's worked out. So you know what? Believe in your Broncos, or maybe believe in your Avalanche or your Nuggets, and you can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-under, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon for all the action this NFL season. Don't miss out on $150 in bonus bets when your team wins at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. We are your Rockies fans extraordinaires, Skyler Timmins and Paul Holden here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thanking you for joining us today, and thanking you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen. I don't know if Skyler's thanking you, but I'm thanking you for making us your first listen of the day and finding us on your favorite streaming services. We bring if you're looking for people who like Rockies baseball, you're looking at two probably top of the line people when it comes to dealing with it. We watch Rockies baseball so you don't have to. It's basically how we
I always describe it as I love Rockies baseball, but I don't like it.
I think that's the best way to describe it. So appreciate you checking us out here on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and on your favorite streaming services. Hey, speaking of YouTube, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. We were in the middle of our Rockies lightning round where Skyler's answering a bunch of random questions that I'm literally coming up with most of them on the spot. I had a couple in my head to keep things moving, but we figured this time of the year, mix it up a little bit, and I wanted to put him on the hot seat to see how he thought. And the question leading into segment number 2 was, will Chris Bryant and Charlie Blackmon each play 120 games next year? Stay healthy for 120 games next year.
I'm split. I think Charlie Blackmon can, because it got hit in the hand, broke his finger. Like, there's not much you can do to control that. Otherwise, Chuck was pretty healthy last season. Maybe that break on the injured list kind of refreshed his legs a bit. But overall, Chuck's usually pretty good for quite a few games. 144 in 2021. And then injuries hurt him last year. But I think healthy, he was looking good in that final season. He's going to push himself to get through to 120 games in what I assume is his final season in baseball, but specifically as a Rocky. Chris Bryant, on the other hand, no. Will he play 100? I'm hopeful.
Is that enough to make you feel better about Chris Bryant? Is 100 games enough for Chris Bryant to play? For me, that's simply too low.
Yeah, it's still too low, but at least 100, I think it's a step in the right direction, at least, which is sad with how big that contract is. But I think like 110, 115 would be great. But yeah, that 120, I think that's the benchmark he needs to get to. Mm-hmm. And hopefully a full transition to first base and DH will go a long way in helping that. Save his legs a little bit more. And then it's just a matter of staying out of the way of pitches and not getting hit in the hand to break his hand.
It'll be interesting for Bryant going into this offseason where it is, I'm a first baseman. You know, I'm going into this offseason playing first base. I'm not worrying about the hitting in first base are my clear focus. Okay, next one for you here. Nolan Jones is a 30-30 player next year. 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases.
Ooh, I'm going to go with the bold optimism and say yes.
He was a 2020 player this year in 367 at bats. I think it's possible. I think it might be more likely he's in the 30-20 stolen bases, maybe down. But I think if there's a line, I don't know what FanDuel has. I don't know if they have Rockies future home run totals yet, but say the over under's 25.5 for Nolan Jones home runs. I'm taking the over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got a full regular season under his belt, comfortable in Colorado. He's got himself established defensively and really in a good space offensively. I think he can do it.
All right, our next one. The Colorado Rockies will lose 100 games in 2024.
Part of me wants to say no. It's going to come close.
I think they'll have another year where they come close. I think they'll eerily escape. But to follow up with that, the Colorado Rockies will finish the first month of the season above 500. Have you looked at their schedule?
I haven't, but
here I got you. Here I'll give you because I did a whole episode on this. The Rockies are in hot water immediately. They don't play a non-playoff caliber team until like middle of May.
Ooh.
So here is how the season. I'm just going to read the series of up until basically where I think they stop hitting a potential playoff team. Okay. So they open the series at Arizona, at the Cubs. Then they play the Rays. They play the D-backs. They play at Toronto, at Philly, play the Mariners, play the Padres, play the Astros in Mexico City, play the Marlins. And then finally, on May 3rd, they are at the Pirates. So that is their first month of the season. If I can go a little slower again, but it's basically the first month of the season is D-backs, Cubs, Rays, Blue Jays, Phillies, Mariners, Padres, Astros.
Yeah, they're not finishing above 500. Like the goal will be to win 10 games because they won 9 games in 2023 in April. So get one more win.
I saw that and my heart kind of sunk a little bit because of like how much I'm trying to stay on the smaller positive stuff for the Rockies, but it's just like because I was seeing some stuff and they're like, oh, the Rockies are going to be the worst team. You know, there's a lot of preseason projections that have the Rockies as the worst team in baseball. And I'm like, I just don't know if I buy that. And it's like, then you look at your schedule and you're like, this team going up against these teams at this rate next year, that's the problem. I mean, again, and then after that Pirates series, it's Giants, Rangers, Padres, Giants, and then you get the A's. You really don't get a break at all. There's really not a point where you like play back-to-back series against non-playoff caliber teams. Maybe, you know, you get this NL Central stretch here in June where you get Reds, Cardinals, but there's no real reprieve until late in the second half of the season. You know, so when we talk trade deadline, the Rockies are going to have some really, I think the story might be told for them a little bit earlier than we think, you know, so I guess this will lead into my next rapid fire question. If the Rockies do struggle out the gates, they will trade sooner rather than later.
Probably not. I think they'll wait until I think June, like they kind of show like when they traded Mike Moustakas. I think June's probably their good litmus test because 2 months, the first 2 months give you a good idea of what you are as a team and what maybe you have, and you can start then putting wheels in motion. So I don't think until June probably is when they start trading people.
All right, here's another one for you. After the 2024 trade deadline, Michael Toglia, Hunter Goodman, and Sean Bouchard are all members of the Colorado Rockies. Yes or no?
I want to say yes.
I think Michael Toglia is getting traded.
Yeah, he would be the one I would agree with.
I just don't know if he has a spot. Because if you're not trading Toglia, you're trading Montero, right?
Yeah, that's where I fall with one of those two, like especially this offseason when you're looking for pitching. And you can keep Montero. He has a little bit more better bat, but between the two, there's still just too many problems between both that they just haven't been able to iron out. And like both of them aren't doing super great in winter ball right now. Toglia is doing a little bit better than Monty, I think. But one of those guys, they have value, but there's just no place to put them because Chris Bryant's at first base and Charlie Blackmon's your DH, and Toglia is not the best right fielder. So
it's just totally, it's kind of a bummer for him where it's like he's supposed to be the first baseman. That's like his whole, I just feel like when it's really strange to hype up a guy as the next Todd Helton, and then he withers away in right field. Like, and I know his bat hasn't been there when the Rockies have given, because he got at bats last year. I'm not saying he was one of the prospects that actually got to see the field in consistent stretches, but I think he's just in a really tough spot where the Rockies, like, it's again, can the Rockies take it on the chin of trading? Like, does trading Montero bring up more ire from the Arenado trade? And does that really matter at this point? I don't really think so, because I think people will take a pitcher if it comes to the if Monty's the one that goes. But I really want to see that Montero breakout year.
Yeah. And thing with Tully is the team has to show that they can make no drastic improvements on a player that's struggling. And could it be, hey, Michael, stop switch hitting. We just need you to bat left-handed. Let's focus on that, or something like that. Otherwise, trade him. Trade either one of those guys if they're not going to have that full opportunity. Give them opportunities somewhere else where they can expand, and you bring in a pitcher that you need.
Kyle Freeland cuts down on the home runs and improves on his strikeout numbers this year. Yes or no?
Yes on the home runs, but strikeouts just aren't part of his game. That's the thing. He's going to be looking to get ground ball outs, it's good. That works. But
yeah, do it effective. And we know how good he is. I mean, he's one of the best double play ground ball inducers I feel like out there. He really can get himself out of some jams.
If he could get 4 to 5 strikeouts a game, that's a good number. I think for his type of caliber of pitcher, in a big spot, you got to be able to get strikeouts. And he has the arsenal to do it. He has the know-how, the deceptiveness as a lefty to do it. It's just a matter of placing those pitches and sequencing to where you can get the strikeouts. So like 4 to 5, I'll take that. I'll take that every outing from Kyle Freeland.
Yep. 100. Yeah. If you can go 4 to 5 strikeouts and he can go to the 6th or the 7th, happy. Even if it's, a 2-run, even if you give up 2 or 3, I think that's the thing, the pill you got to swallow with Rockies pitching. Like, your offense should be good enough that if your starter gives up 2 or 3, you should still be able to be in ball games. Like, you should still be able to back. You should still be able to back your pitcher up and be able to go blow for blow with them. That's what the offense needs to be. Keeping with the pitching, we see the best version of Austin Gomber in 2024.
I don't think so.
Was this year the best version of Austin Gomber?
I partly still don't think so. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the best version of Austin Gomber is the big problem, because we've seen stretches where he's been good, but it's all just kind of too much of a mixed bag. Like, I don't know what a really good Austin Gomber looks like. Is it when his curveball's working, he's getting a ton of ground ball outs and going 6 shutout? I don't know, because we don't see it very often. But we'll see a better version. I think a more complete version of where he is at now. We'll see improvement if he stays healthy with that back.
Will the Rockies bring back either Chase Anderson or Chris Flexen?
I think Chase Anderson would be their
he gets
their
the
main
nod
target.
over the 2?
I think he would, because they liked him. He was putting in some good outings, and relatively wouldn't be cheap. And he wants to come back. He was interested in coming back. So that's always a magic word for the Rockies. They want, if the guy wants to come back or wants to be here, they're like, oh yeah, we got to get him.
Yeah, and the fact that they currently don't have a starting 5.
Yeah, he would bring some stability to that rotational options.
And again, not great, really, at the below average pitcher, yes, but he did stabilize things. And yes, there's gonna be the Chase Anderson game where he gets hammered and he's out in an inning in the 3rd. Like, that's totally gonna happen. But again, your offense has to be able to punch back more so than it did last year. And I think that will benefit some of these fringe Rockies pitchers. That's what's made it such a big deal with Rockies pitching in the past, is that combination of the dip in Rockies offense as well. I think that's a key thing. Kyle Freeland is a better pitcher when his offense is there, because the 2-3 runs he gives up don't feel as bad, because it feels, there were times where it's like, oh, great, here comes the 7th. This team's bringing in their bullpen. The Rockies offense is just going to strike out the whole way. There's no way they're going to climb this mountain.
Exactly.
All right, we'll keep mixing it. Let's get a little more fun here. The Dodgers don't win the NL West.
Ooh.
You don't have to
No.
tell me who. I'm just saying the Dodgers don't win the NL West in 2024.
No, they're gonna win it.
Yeah.
I think they win it.
And
It's you look at the rest of the division, you're like, I don't know anybody that can overtake them in the division itself, especially if they're going out and getting Shohei and if they somehow pull off a trade and bring in Mike Trout. You're
okay,
like,
I saw that and I was like, for the love of all that is holy, no. Like,
it's that Simpsons meme where like, stop, he's already
right,
dead.
yeah. I did the Michael Scott gif of like, no, God, please, no. I'll lead that into. Do the Dodgers land Shohei?
No, I can't resign myself to saying yes because there's better options for Shohei to go to
There
than the
is.
Dodgers, like the Cubs or the Mariners or the Rangers, even or even the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm personally rooting him to go to the Cubs. I just think that would work for the Cubs, and I'm okay with the Cubs doing stuff. But
You're one of those let the Cubs have good things type of guy.
yeah,
Not
just let them do their thing.
I mean, I wish the Rockies were in that division, man. Jeez.
Oh, I would be so happy in a Central Division.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's let's see here. We're because I want to we're gonna go to a break here and then we'll wind down with I want to talk about you filling out a Hall of Fame ballot there here in segment number 3. I'm just trying to think of if I missed anything that I wanted to. Oh, okay. Who's the Rockies All-Star next year?
Nolan Jones.
Yeah.
And Ezekiel Tovar.
Okay.
I'm giving him 2.
I like that.
I'm going to give him 2.
And in that same vein, how many Gold Glove finalists do the Rockies have next year?
Let's see. I'm going to count. Let's see. McMahon.
And they keep the roster. No, just say no trades. Rogers, McMahon stay on the team, still here.
Let's see. I'm going to say Jones, Doyle, McMahon, Tovar. I'm going to throw Brendan Rodgers back in there because he just didn't get a chance to defend his title this year.
I think Brendan
So
Rodgers.
there's a world where they could have five Gold Glove finalists next year.
Does that mean anything for the Rockies?
I think it's a good step in the right direction, and it can make it more attractive to like maybe bringing in pitchers. Like, hey, like you come here, we're gonna have a good defense behind you. And we've talked about that on this show before. The defense makes pitching better and gives confidence to pitchers. Combine that with an offense that can keep you in games, but a defense does a lot for helping a pitcher along the way.
Yep, absolutely. All right, I got one more question to ask, and that's about Skyler's experience filling out his Hall of Fame ballot. We're going to do that coming up in segment number 3. Thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Thank you for tuning in here to the show. We're running a little late, so I'm not going to do the usual spiel, but check us out. Streaming services, YouTube, Locked On Sports Today. It's all there. You can check it all out. Skyler here. Skyler Timmins from Purple Row and a million other things. Skyler, you got to fill out a Hall of Fame ballot this year, and I know we were kind of joking a little bit about it on before, but it has to be really cool, and it also has to be really cool to be a voice for Todd Helton.
Yeah, so it's part of the IBWAA, the Internet Baseball Writers Association of America. They're kind of like basically an internet-based one. They're not affiliated with the BBWAA, who are the more official, real Hall of Fame. Voting for their Hall of Fame. But the IBWAA is just kind of a help and serve and promote baseball content creators. So like myself or like even you, Paul, people that do blogs, podcasts, in that thing to help get their work out there. Really helps aspiring writers. It was like, yeah, it's a kind of a pay you to get into the club. It's a lifetime membership, pretty cheap. It's like $75 for a lifetime membership. You can tag them into stuff you write and they'll share it. Either have a newsletter you can write for and get paid just a little bit. And so it's a nice little organization. We vote, they send out voting awards. We vote for awards year. So vote for MVP, all that good stuff, all-stars. And this time of year, they send out their own Hall of Fame ballot voting for their Internet Baseball Hall of Fame. And the nice caveat is they give us 12 votes. So we're not limited to 10. It gives you an extra 2. And I'm of that belief, like, there's no reason the Hall of Fame should be small. Like, celebrate the history of baseball, celebrate the guys of different eras. And So that's how I approached it. I had a full ballot, 12 guys, emphasized it more like, here's my top 10, and then here's my extra 2 votes I threw in just to kind of align it a little better. But it is, I do not envy the Hall of Fame voters because it's tough. You're just sitting there going through stats, and no, I'm not familiar with some of these guys, so try to dive into the stats and everything. It's a tough process of thinking like, okay, well, who would I put in at number 10? Who's number 11? Who just misses the cusp of who I would vote for? Oh, well, this guy had some legal troubles off the field, but was a really good pitcher. How do I reconcile that? Or, you know, Manny Ramirez, A-Rod. Yes, really good players. I didn't vote for him because they were suspended for PED usage. They missed a lot of time because of PEDs, and I follow the philosophy of John Paul Morosi, where if they were suspended during the era where they're cracking down on that stuff, yeah, they don't get his vote. And I subscribe to that philosophy, but it's an interesting process just thinking about voting, even in this scenario where you take it seriously and just think like, well, who is deserving? Who would I vote for? And everything. So
well, and I think when you saying that gives a lot of good perspective. I think for us as Rockies fans too, that are always like, we're up in arms about people not knowing the Rockies. But again, you're sitting there like, I simply just don't have time to know all these baseball players, and I don't have room, and I didn't watch them. So I think that's, it might be a separate thing, but I think that that's a really good way to get that perspective to get some insight onto it. And so we're running out of time, but Skyler, give me your elevator pitch Helton Hall of Fame. Why Todd Helton in the Hall? Elevator pitch, just the thing that when you think Todd Helton stats or whatever that just impresses you the most.
I think when you're trying to tell the story of baseball and you want to include players that help tell that story for multiple different teams, whoever, and Todd Helton spent his entire 17-year career in Colorado, that means something. And not only that, despite where he played, the difficulties that, the biases that people have against him, he put up Hall of Fame numbers doing things that Lou Gehrig hadn't done. A prolific doubles hitter, extra base hitter, could hit home runs, impeccable plate discipline, one of the best defenders at his position during his era, and ultimately one of the just best bats. Regardless of where he played, you can look at his away stats, better than some of the career numbers of Hall of Famers. So ultimately, don't let the stigma of Coors Field and altitude keep you from or negate the greatness of an individual's accomplishments, and don't punish him for where he chose to play. He didn't choose to be drafted by the Rockies. They selected him, and then he chose to continue to stay. And I think that says a lot about his character as an individual and then just as a player.
Yep, absolutely.
Coors Field does not define him. It helps a little bit, but everybody benefits from their home ballpark.
Yep.
Regardless. So
there's that Yankee Stadium. There's that field in Cincinnati. There's a lot of other offensive ballparks that don't get nearly the amount of focus there that Coors does. Skyler, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wrap things up here for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Where can they go to stay up to date with all things you and your Rockies coverage?
You can find me at sideline_crowd over on X, formerly known as Twitter. I think that's the official way to say that. But for however long until that gets run into the ground. But also you can find me at purpleroad.com writing weekly Wednesday rock piles. Our Ranking the Rockies series is coming closer to an end. We're in the top 10 now.
Yeah,
finishing
good
our
guys.
top 10 Rockies. Yeah, more so there. The guys that have one WAR or above. And but you can find me there also at fansfirstsports.com, writing a lot about Rockies articles. You can find my Hall of Fame ballot article where I talk about the guys I selected and stats and things. And yeah, good stuff. And find us on the Affected by Altitude podcast at Rocky Mountain Rooftop over on Twitter or on YouTube on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. So good stuff. Always find us on wherever you get your podcasting platforms.
Yep, and you can also get the Locked On Rockies podcast wherever you get your podcasting platforms. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Check us out on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Don't miss out on the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs podcast if you need more Colorado sports coverage. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.